The sun meeting Neptune in the sky, well, sometimes that can be the most confusing day of the year, sometimes the most disillusioning day of the year. But the flip side is that this might, for many of us out there, just be the most inspired day of the year as well. It might be the most creative. It might be the day that feels the most spiritual, the most plugged into source. What makes the difference is the intention that we set for ourselves and how much it is that we're willing to be honest with ourselves. Last week when the sun met Saturn, that showed us something about our state of self-honesty, even when it's hard. Well, now here we are, choosing soul, choosing spirit, choosing faith, even when it's hard, just might be the difference between being dramatically disappointed or feeling positively uplifted. We're either going to find ourselves tired, drained, because we dive way into an illusion that just cannot last, or we find ourselves filled up with a sense of higher meaning and purpose as we navigate this time. One thing's for sure, though, when the sun meets Neptune, it is an energy of extremes. There's not a whole lot of middle ground here, but what that means is whatever happens, well, it has the potential to feel that much more significant and meaningful and cleansing as well. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of March 16, 2025. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. Consultations are now available over on my website. You can directly book with me or some of my friends, including Andy of Wise Ass Astrology. Learn more at the link below. Neptune is the ancient god of the seas, and just like the tides can come in with the sea, they can also go out. But Neptune is also one of the outer planets. My most recent book of Ravens and Dragonflies focuses in on the three outer planets and explores as they move through the chart. Well, one thing I uncovered as I was exploring the symbolism of the outer planets is that they always represent a sense of some transition, a sense of some loss even as well. But in the midst of all of that, we find a sense of purpose and meaning and space that's created for something even better to come in. And in the case of Neptune, god of the seas, this is the very embodiment of a type of baptism, if you will. Just about every spiritual tradition out there has a connection between immersing oneself in water and coming out anew, coming out different, coming out more pure or ready to begin again in a way that we weren't up until that point that we immersed ourselves in that water. Well, water could be quite literal, yes, but there's also the metaphorical water as well, the water of our emotions, the water of mist passing, the water of fog as well, which is essentially just water suspended in the air. Now think about fog, right? Fog essentially covers your vision. It obscures whatever it is that might be in front of you to the point where we just don't see it, even if a moment earlier we did. And even if we know that some person, place, thing, or situation is there, it's like we're not seeing it clearly because of that suspension of water in the air. And sometimes there's really no other choice but to wait it out, to let the fog be what it needs to be for as long as it needs to be there. It's also fascinating to consider that fog itself has been symbolic of a greater spiritual immersion, if you will. And that's part of what the sun meeting Neptune represents. It's like we dive in. Whatever the sun touches, it adds that much more energy to it. It grows that much more. And when it's an outer planet like Neptune, we experience this sense of, in an instant, everything looking foggy. And in the fog, either we're going to see an essential truth or we're going to lose ourselves in it, knowing that even if that's the case, we will come out on the other side. I'm currently in Guatemala City. I can't believe it took me this long to get to Guatemala. This is country 50. I came here to celebrate stepping on the land of 50 countries altogether. And my goodness, Guatemala has proven to be powerfully mystical, an incredible energy, an incredible space, so spiritual. And I'm still feeling changed as a result of my experiences here so far. I look forward to coming back again soon because I got to go in a couple of days to Mexico City. And that makes me sad. But the wonderful thing about the world is that the world is here. And when it is that you know that you have more to do in this lifetime, well, those opportunities to be wherever it is that you're meant to be, metaphorically and literally, I truly believe they have a way of coming together. And I truly am meant to be here now. My very magical experiences as of late included climbing a active volcano called Pacaya. And actually, it wasn't really me climbing. In a sense, it was, but it really was with the help of little Tequila, which is a beautiful horse, and riding with Tequila on horseback for the first time in my life. It felt like one of these incredibly powerful experiences. At first, yes, moving through what felt like mountainous terrain, hills, if you will, and then into mists, into fog, into not knowing what was just up ahead, but trusting that me and my partner, Tequila, were going to find our way. As I rode this horse, I understood something about how primal that connection is that we share with our familials, right? Those animals with whom we have a partnership. And the truth is that as human beings, we have a partnership with all of the sky, all of nature, all of the earth, and even with each other as well. And I understood why it is that the horse in particular, throughout cultures, throughout the world, there's this depiction of divinity, of sacred energy as part horse and part human. And there's a very good reason for that, because it does feel as if it's a single unit moving together, but also there's something very elevated about that particular partnership that exists between us and our familials, and especially our horses. The power, the partnership, the meaning of that, and the healing of that is why Chiron himself, the healer, the wounded healer, is depicted as part horse, part human, which is the centaur to the ancient Greeks. As we were walking through the mists, I thought about illusion. I thought about soul. I thought about what's actually real, and how sometimes it can feel really clear where it is that someone else is living in their illusion, and how powerful it is to just let people have whatever illusion they need to have as part of their growth, as part of their healing. And what that comes down to is not taking personally what other people choose to do, the actions that they choose to take. And that can be hard when you are a sensitive soul. And that can be hard when the sun meets Neptune, because this is energy of a sponge, if you will. And yeah, some of us are going to feel really hypersensitive to just about everyone around us. However, there's something else quite remarkable that I came to realize. And that is that if we can recognize other people living in their illusions, well, it is not that far a leap, even though it is very brave a leap to take, which is to be willing to recognize our own illusions. And from there, real learning can be found. Sometimes it starts by seeing something in another that ultimately helps us to take that reflection and own it that much more fully. And that doesn't mean you take on anybody else's opinion of you as your own, but it does mean that so much of how we move through our lives, how we move through the world, is with this illusion that it is the physical that is most important, most real. But the truth is that that isn't really the case. The case is that we are here for soul. Everything else serves the soul. And by everything, I mean the mind, I mean the body, I mean our illusions as well. In their own way, they serve the path of the soul and what it is that the soul desires to learn over the course of this lifetime. We are exactly where it is that we need to be in any given moment as part of working our way through these illusions. And so many of those illusions are self-created. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't things that deserve our compassion. There aren't ways in which real injustices or pain take place, but it does mean that where we have agency, and for those of us who do have a remarkable amount of agency over our lives, it is such a privilege. It is a responsibility to use it that much more fully. Well, one of the most powerful ways we're going to use it is by deciding on the illusions that serve us and those that no longer do. And in this way, the energy of the sun meeting Neptune in the sky can either be diving into the illusion to the point of creating suffering for ourselves. I mean, this is also the energy of self-sacrifice. But what could also happen is we just might heal ourselves as well by recognizing whatever the illusion might be and choosing to understand that while others might think the soul is the illusion, when you know that that's what's real, it's that realization itself that is profoundly healing. So I went up this volcano because I wanted to glimpse another volcano, which you can't go up because it's way active. And it's called Volcán de Fuego, which is the fire volcano. Well, what was so fascinating to me was that this volcano did not want me to see it. It would not reveal itself. So much of everything else around me was hiding and then clear and then hiding. But that volcano specifically that I came to see, that I had heard it's a spiritual experience to see this volcano. It's the most amazing thing. Well, it just would not reveal itself to me. It stayed behind very heavy fog as I moved through this experience, this very powerful experience with little tequila and some lovely guides as well. And I thought about why this would be happening as part of the larger wisdom. And I think one of the reasons it happened is because I got to get myself back to Guatemala later this year when I can. I think that was one thing I understood in the moment, that I'm going to have to come back here. But the other thing was that we know it's there. We can feel it's there. We know that there is, as part of this earthly experience, the elements that compose our understanding of it, including compose our soul. But the soul has this very remarkable way of thriving, even in the midst of uncertainty. A key part of my experience on the volcano was actually moving through volcanic ash. This is where a crater had actually hit, like not that long ago, some 8 years ago, the guides were telling me. That's how recent it was that this ash came to be. And you actually can go to certain spots and you can see steam coming out. I mean, yeah, like I said, this is an active volcano. There's heat emerging from it. It's a powerful space to be in. And so in a way, I was like on the fire, right? But what was so interesting to me as I was walking over this volcanic ash was that in the midst of it, I could feel this energy of life. And it reminded me that even when it looks like nothing is there, even in the midst of ashes, there is always new life ready to emerge, stronger than ever, ready to feel a sense of itself for its own sake. And feeling a sense of you for your own sake, for your own bliss, your own power, your own purpose. That just might be a gift of this time as well. See, that's the thing with purpose. There's different ways to understand it. There's purpose and then there's passion. And Sometimes we interchange the two words, but the truth is, in my humble opinion, I think that what is our purpose really? It is to be present for our lives. That's it. Just to be here now in this moment. If you are here in this moment now, it's exactly where it is that you're supposed to be. But that doesn't mean that the soul doesn't feel like it has a mission. Doesn't mean that there might not be things that you feel very passionate about. And a part of spiritual connection, soul connection, if you will, when you have that connection to soul, there is this knowing that because you have something to do in this lifetime, even if you don't know exactly what that is, even if you're in the middle of fog and you can just see one step ahead, like me and little tequila, even then, just knowing on a soul level that you have more to do in this lifetime makes it so. It makes it so that the path reveals itself as you go along, and the path feels that much more purposeful with every step of the way. You become more as you walk that path every step of the way. And any act of faith ultimately strengthens us going forward from here. Now, what's also fascinating, though, with this realization that I think in our own context, a lot of us are going to be having if we choose. Like I said, it's either going to be on Wednesday, the most confusing day of the year, or the most spiritual day of the year, the most blissful day of the year, the most purposeful day of the year. A lot depends on how willing we are to see through illusion, to see it for what it is, and to not get caught up in it and not get invested in ultimately what is illusion. And that requires faith. It requires faith and enough to know that in stillness, in quiet, that is where you just might find yourself. That can be found at any time and any place. But see, here's the thing. We start the week with Mercury retrograde. Right out of the gate, depending on where you are on the planet. For the most part, many people are going to have this retrograde begin just before we start the week. But certainly we are coming into this week with Mercury station retro in the sign of Aries. This is part of where Mercury retrograde is going to take place as we navigate further in the weeks ahead. We're going to have right now, Mercury retrograde is joining Venus retrograde. Both are going to retrograde back and are going to, as part of their retrograde season, eventually come to meet Neptune. Again, this is in the weeks ahead, and I'll be here to talk about it every step of the way. But I find this so fascinating because it is this contrast playing out. Right now with Mercury retrograde in Aries, Aries is fire, right? Again, lit up with fire. It's there. Sometimes we just got to pay attention, but it is there. As are all the elements at all times, as is soul at all times. But what is so incredible is Aries is also the energy of self, whereas Pisces, as an archetype in a higher sense, is about giving oneself to the higher one, which is the wholeness of everyone and everything. Aries is highly individualistic. It's very much about trusting one's own spark and going with it boldly where that's required, bravely, even when it's hard. But Mercury's retrograde here. And what that suggests is a deeper fire within, a responsible understanding of how to use that fire, because fire for its own sake can be very destructive, like any of the elements can in their own way. But when it is that we use an element like fire, the fire of Aries, with intention, with diligence, we become unstoppable. Retrogrades are when a planet is closer to the Earth than it might otherwise be. It is heightened in significance. But that's also when the energy of that planet turns inward. It invites us to be reflective with it, because if we're not, what happens is we go along our lives unconsciously, and then whatever happens with the retrograde, we're going to have to revisit it and sort of sort things out, make things okay with the stuff we started during the retrograde. But with some intention Instead, we look at how we're using the archetypal energy of that planet, how we're embodying it, because ultimately all the planets are sacred embodiments of energies that are ultimately beyond embodiment, which is the energy of the gods and the goddesses and the deities, of which you are the embodiment of. You are a living expression of all these sacred energies. They flow forward from you and through you. And it is in your life, in your incarnation now, that because you lived, the gods continue to live. Because you lived, because you felt love with Venus, it means that Aphrodite, Venus, she is still known by us, by each of us, and known by you, as is the case with Mercury. Mercury is mind, curiosity, and a willingness to connect with others, to think things through, to access sort of our higher ability to discern, which is an important part of being human. Making vital connections is part of the hallmark of more advanced intellectual thought. There's a reason that when human beings actually invented tools, that the invention of tools was a huge leap in consciousness that we took thousands of years ago. And we needed that leap to happen to get us to where we are today. It was when human beings figured out how to generate fire so that we could use it with intentionality. That too represented a huge leap in consciousness. It set the foundation for whom it is that we are today. And so it is now with Mercury, right? Mercury retrograde, that energy becomes more karmic, which means that conversations we have, thoughts that we have, interactions we have with others, and yes, the connections we make within ourselves as well, bringing different ideas together, finding understanding, these all become ways in which we understand how to take this energy of Mercury and embody it more fully. How we come to understand this energy as sacred. And as part of that, we're going to welcome in unexpected people, places, things, and situations that ultimately are there to help us to awaken this sacred energy within so that we may embody this ancient God. So when I say karmic, I mean its time has come. I mean that on a soul level, we're ready to engage a certain lesson that might be arising for us. And as such, certain things pop up. And they help us ultimately along our soul's journey. But the truth is, any moment with awareness can be part of the soul's journey and the soul's evolution. We are also going to have, besides Mercury retrograde at the start of the week, and then Wednesday, as I spoke of, either the most confusing or the most inspiring day of the year on Wednesday. On Thursday, the sun changes signs, moving into the sign of Aries. Happy birthday to the Aries out there. And this is the start of Aries season, but this is also the start of the astrological new year in much of the world. In Latin America, Astrologer's Day tends to be right about the 6th of January, if I'm correct, which is the day of the three kings, as it's called, Tres Reyes. And that is to celebrate the three wise men who deciphered a star in the sky, and it led to where it is that they needed to go so that they could be part of this whole trajectory on which we find ourselves now in terms of modern religious state of being, rooted 2,000 years ago. But it is the astrological new year, the first sign of the zodiac that is pretty universally recognized as the start of a brand new, bold cycle. And this is where the sun joining in amps up the party that much more. Wherever the sun goes and whatever it touches, it amps up the party. But you add the sun moving into Aries when we already have a retrograde Mercury and a retrograde Venus there. Well, you can see a focus on personal power and exercising our free will with consciousness, with awareness, and with intention. Well, it becomes part of what is that much more visible and that much more celebrated now. It is going to be on Friday that we have a big moment, a key moment as part of the larger Venus retrograde season. And that is going to be when Venus connects in harmony with Pluto. This is the second time these two are connecting. The first time was all the way back. The 7th of February was the first time. And that was when Venus was in shadow, was walking the path that now Venus is retrograding over. This is the second connection. The third is going to take place in May. And whatever might be happening now might in some way connect us to what was taking place for us in the early part of February, but also whatever might be happening now will be understood differently once it is that we get into the month of May. That is a huge turning point for us. And look, just looking at this energy very literally, very deliberately, Venus sextile Pluto is very intriguing. It is sultry, right? It is energy that it takes heart and has us feeling more deeply than we thought we could. We already are in that place because Venus is retrograde closer to the earth than she might otherwise be. There's a lot of passion in the air right now. But you add to this the fact that this profound energy perfecting now for the second time, well, we just might be surprised at the power of heart, the transformative power of desire, wherever that might lead us. Having an understanding of love, and that could be universal love, it could be personal. It's most likely personal though, because it is Venus in Aries, and it's most likely oriented around passion, whether it's what we're passionate about or romantic passion at that. Whatever Pluto touches, it makes it intense. And when it is a harmonious connection, it's like we like the intensity. We are thriving on the intensity, but remember, for every high, there's a low. And if there's any mantra you need to have this week, that would be it. For every high, there's a low. There could be a high in the middle of the week, right? I mean, look, Sun conjunct Neptune is a high if there ever was one. But for every high, there's a low, which means just as quickly we might find ourselves having a dip, which means that we have to be very diligent with our self-care. But the same is true for desire, for love. There's something so addictive about it. And we just might glimpse it. We might taste it. We might feel ourselves participating in the intensity of desire. So much so that it feels heightened in one moment. And then there's the practicalities, the realities, because we can't live in a space of intensity. That's not where life actually happens. Life actually takes place in the middle space, where we find contentment, where we find joy, where we might find a sense of presence and purpose, and maybe even a passion for life itself, a joy and enthusiasm. That is very different than a high moment, a rush, an attraction, a pull towards another that feels fated, that feels consuming, but in a way that's also really fun. A lot of us might be feeling something like that. And if you do, enjoy it, absolutely, but also know that it's a good idea to strive for some balance and to have it not just be about a given attraction or a given moment, but rather have it be about how it is we might take that very energy and use it as a catalyst towards self-honesty and more meaningful change. That is the higher understanding of this connection. Just like all of the planetary activities this week that I've mentioned so far, they have a range of expression. And Venus sextile Pluto, this is one of the sweet spots of the larger Venus retrograde season. And these two connecting now can be a real sense of us tapping into a depth of heart, or feeling a sense that a moment where we tapped into depth of heart served as a catalyst towards more sweeping, profound, and positive change in our lives. it is now that the universe just might point the way towards what that change could be. And ultimately, with Venus, it always comes down to seeing ourselves more lovingly. Venus is romantic love, but she's also self-love. She's also seeing yourself more generously, knowing yourself as someone worthy of all good things that this incarnation has to offer. If something needs to adjust, needs to shift, needs to change as part of that journey for you, well, it just might be that now the pathway towards that meaningful change shows up for us, along with the motivation to do our part to make those changes happen. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It's a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. I'm going to say I love the energy of, well, here we have a look, the most confusing day of the year or the most inspired day of the year, depending on your intention and your starting point and your focus. The thing is, it can also be a bit of a roller coaster of a day. So it becomes very important to be diligent with self-care. And if you do that, you're already starting to tap into the higher intention of this energy, which is ultimately one of transition, one of acknowledging soul, one of allowing change to happen that ultimately gives life that much more meaning. If you are here, it means that you have more to do in this lifetime. If you are here for another breath or 2 breaths or more, it means that there's something that the soul desires to know and to learn and to do and to be in this incarnation. It means that life itself, you being here itself, is purpose enough to make the most of this moment. And with intentionality, deciding to see soul in ourselves and in each other, well, we just might magnify the power of soul, the collective soul, the planetary soul, that much more. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys, and to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded exclusive video scopes each and every week for as low as just $3 a month with choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Links are in the description below. Consultations are now available over on my website, NadiyaShah.com/consultations. The direct link is below, and when you get to the page, you'll see you can choose to consult with me or with Andy of Wise Ass Astrology. With me, the whole process is now automated, which is a wonderful thing. You just go onto my website, you choose the length of the consult that you want, you choose the date and time based on my calendar that you will see there. You fill out a form, you make your payment, and then you are automatically sent a Zoom link. And what I really love is that automatically all of that comes into my phone right away as well. So I appreciate that so much, but I will say that for me personally, even though I'm there totally in service of you, and the time can be whatever it is that you want it to be, right? Everybody brings a different energy and a different intention to the consultation time that we share. But really, I am there in service of you. And just more personally, doing consults has quickly become my most favorite part of what I do, because it has reawakened my own sense of purpose and so much more. But again, that's me. And when I'm there in that moment, I am there for you, whatever intention or questions that you might bring. And so have a look at that. Now, Andy of Wise Ass Astrology also has consultations available there. And the great thing is that if you need or desire a different price point, well, it is Andy who does choose your consultation rate, which means that you can consult with Andy for as low as just $50. And he will go the distance, I'll tell you. So I think that the booking is 90 minutes, but he always ends up going over 90 minutes, always. He wants to make sure to dive into your chart to answer your questions. And with him, the process is a little different. You go into the calendar, you choose what date and time you want, and then you make the request. Once you've confirmed with one of my team members the date and time of your consult with Andy, then you're sent a payment link to secure your consultation. So you can see that there's lots of options available to you over on my website where it comes to securing a consultation. And just thank you. Thank you so much for your trust. I know that Andy thanks you a lot as well. He brings his whole self to the consultations, as do I. He finds them really rewarding, as do I. And you can learn a lot more about getting a consult with either of us over on my website. Links are below. And thank you. Thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust. I'm so very grateful for it. Stay tuned for short horoscopes. The most confusing day of the year for each and every sign. That's what we're going to be looking at next. And yeah, just to reiterate again, Guatemala has just been life-changing, I'll tell you. It is powerful. I mean, it's incredible how people, I feel like there's so many incredible places on the planet, and some places don't get nearly enough of the focus for the magic that they hold and bring. And I know that just about any place in the world can be magical. I truly believe that. But some places just radiate it. They welcome in this constant stream of experiences that are nothing less than magical. And Guatemala has been that for me. So I'm so grateful to this country, the experiences I've had, and I look forward to coming back really soon. But I am headed to Mexico City, and so I will be there for a month. Andy of Wise Ass Astrology is going to be there for like the first 2 weeks as well that I'm there. And so if you want to meet either of us and you are in the Mexico City area, yeah, let us know. We are super happy to meet, to hug, to spend a moment. And if you want an in-person consultation as well, we can make that happen. But really, just meeting for a hug, I love doing that when I travel with friends and fans. Thank you so much again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy. The sun meeting Neptune in the sky, well, sometimes that can be the most confusing day of the year, sometimes the most disillusioning day of the year. But the flip side is that this might, for many of us out there, just be the most inspired day of the year as well. It might be the most creative. It might be the day that feels the most spiritual, the most plugged into source. What makes the difference is the intention that we set for ourselves and how much it is that we're willing to be honest with ourselves. Last week when the sun met Saturn, that showed us something about our state of self-honesty, even when it's hard. Well, now here we are, choosing soul, choosing spirit, choosing faith, even when it's hard, just might be the difference between being dramatically disappointed or feeling positively uplifted. We're either going to find ourselves tired, drained, because we dive way into an illusion that just cannot last, or we find ourselves filled up with a sense of higher meaning and purpose as we navigate this time. One thing's for sure, though, when the sun meets Neptune, it is an energy of extremes. There's not a whole lot of middle ground here, but what that means is whatever happens, well, it has the potential to feel that much more significant and meaningful and cleansing as well. Now, how this energy will speak to you depends on your sun, moon, and rising. Take all three signs into consideration, synthesize the information to make it unique to you. And of course, there are lots more horoscopes up right now over on my YouTube channel, Nadiya Shah, and in the superstar space over at thefutureismagical.com. Aries, the divine meeting of the sun and Neptune in the sign just before yours, means that a lot is happening on levels of soul, psyche, and spirit. It is an energy of a well of emotion and sensitivity and even psychic ability coming to the surface. The important thing to remember is to allow change to happen. If you are here, it means that you have a lot more to do in this lifetime. You absolutely do. And the ability to see magic is going to be especially strong. But as part of that magic, it means that change must happen. This can be fortunate karmic closures that feel like a miracle that visit you now. And ultimately, it's part of creating space for the new and the next to come rushing in. Taurus, friendships and group alliances. Either it's going to feel as if a friendship that might have been important to you at one time is just washing away, is exiting. Maybe you feel like someone has not been honest with you or intentionally been deceptive, but it might also be a time when, as a result of the people that you're connected with in groups or on a friendship level, a rush of healing comes in. You may have to be discerning as to whom it is you go to, depending on your own intention, but really, this is either bliss or disappointment. Either way, you get to the same place, which is about faith and about seeing the good within yourself and knowing that truly magical friendships are opening up for you, whether they're opening up because someone exits or they're opening up because the ones that are already there become richer and that much more meaningful. Gemini, career, social standing, life purpose, and your understanding of a higher, more loving vision for your life. This is a time of change. It's either higher meaning, seeing spirit, seeing the divine in the career path that you have, or it's going to be an awareness that perhaps the path that you're on just ain't it. And it's okay for it to wash away so that space can be created for perhaps new goals to emerge at this time. Now, life purpose can take on greater spiritual significance for you. And where it is that you are intentionally aligning life purpose and soul purpose together, well, this can be a time of reward as well, the kind that feels like magic. If you are in a profession that has to do with weaving and illusion or healing professions as well, well, those are the ones that likely are going to feel that much more blessed under the light of this conjunction. Cancer, long distance travel, immigration, citizenship, higher learning, and legal matters. Now, if you are doing any traveling, it is likely going to feel like a spiritual pilgrimage, no matter where it is that you end up going. But this can also be seemingly magical ways where matters having to do with what I just mentioned, they just might find resolution. So if there's been a troublesome issue where it comes to perhaps a legal matter, well, this is where it can feel as if your troubles just wash away. That's the miraculous part of this, but also this can be disillusionment or disappointment in these given matters as well. More personally, this part of the sky has to do with understanding your place in the world. And this is a certain spiritual fervor that might feel uncharacteristic, but it takes you over as part of understanding ultimately what pathway that is revealing itself to you in terms of your changing relationship with the world and the divine itself. Leo, truth, transformation, regeneration, and wealth. This is where spiritual truths are that much more readily available to you. They feel that much more apparent, and you're able to bring this universal love to your understanding of some psychological or physical journey of transformation you might be in the midst of. It's important to trust a higher wisdom now, especially if it is that you're aiming for power, as your definition of power itself might go through a change. You might feel very drawn to what previously was taboo to you, but remember, you're likely not seeing it clearly. It's possible you'll have to pay attention to a matter having to do with a credit card or a loan or benefits that you qualify for, but whatever comes up, understand that when we have energy like this, it says that the money you need is there, but the spiritual lessons will be that much more on the surface. And this can be a flush of wealth coming in, but it can go the other way as well, because remember, this is an energy of extremes. So be mindful of that and engage your lessons consciously. Virgo, love and partnership. You just are not seeing another person very clearly now. And sometimes that's really good, right? You need hope and fantasy in order to even try where it comes to matters of love. And you'll have that in abundance. Now, either it's going to feel like a dream come true, being swept up, or it's going to feel just downright disappointing or disillusioning in the context of love. Either are extremes, and either might be way too much of one or the other. And in some rare cases, it may feel as if someone exits your life, maybe someone that you previously had partnered with, or you find a depth of forgiveness. Remember, Venus is retrograde. All might not be as it seems, but you're coming to understand what a soulmate is to you and what it isn't, as part of knowing when to welcome in forgiveness that brings closeness, or allow change to take you another way. Leo, your daily life, your work life, clients, customers, coworkers, but also how well you take care of you, including on a level of your health. It may feel as if one of these types of people I just mentioned isn't being straightforward with you or maybe honest with you, but it's also possible that it isn't intentional. This can be finding spiritual significance in the mundane things you do day in and day out. In fact, that's the best way to use this energy now. For all that, though, we have energies here that speak to feeling that much more spiritually connected to the daily habits and rituals that guide your life, not just at work, but outside that as well. Where it comes to how well you take care of you on a health level, this can be either a mysterious allergy energy that might come and go very quickly, or this can be a sense of spiritual healing that feels profound that could find you now. Scorpio, romance, flirtation, what the heart wants in every area of life. This is where you really might feel very caught up in a fantasy. It's that sense of a knight coming in and rescuing you that you might be going for, surprisingly so, where you least expected it. But remember, this is your experience of love. It's not necessarily a give and take energy we're seeing here. And so it really might be you feeling very wrapped up in a fantasy. Outside of that, though, that doesn't mean that it isn't meaningful nonetheless, and that love can be a force of healing in your life now is undeniable. But this can also be channeled towards a creative endeavor where if you take the time to focus on your creative output, you may just generate something that feels like you've touched on magic. Sagittarius, home, the past, your living situation, your family of origin, your parents in particular. There's powerful healing energies here. And whether it is feeling your home to be a space that is like a sanctuary, a healing space, if you will, but this could also be a particular relationship with someone from your past or a family member, getting a burst of healing now in a way that allows meaningful forgiveness and a sense that you're able to put a certain situation behind you. Well, in some ways you're reconciling with the past, but you're also finding peace right where you are. And that balance can help you to be that much more present as you move forward from here. Capricorn, siblings, cousins, neighbors, and thinking, talking, communicating. Well, look, here's the thing. Chances are you're not seeing things clearly, full stop, all around, especially around the middle of the week. So it becomes really important to pace yourself. Try not to sign any agreements or make big life-changing decisions because you're just not accurately assessing things. And that really is okay. This is a time to dream, to plug into source, and to brainstorm all that could be possible for you. But for all that, we have here incredible energies that speak to either a healing moment with one of these types of people I just mentioned, where great news could happen in their lives and you're happy for them, healing moments for them and you're happy for them, or within the relationship itself. But the flip side is also possible where it feels as if one of these people is not being straightforward with you. I'm sorry to say, but the great thing is that you're still able to bring a perspective of love. And if anything, that brings you peace. Aquarius, money you earn, money you spend, self-love, self-esteem are covered here. And this can be beautiful for feeling the faith of prosperity and feeling prosperity just rush in almost miraculously, very possible. But of course, the reverse is true. It can feel like a flush goes out. It happens. But the great thing is when we have such strong financial energy, it means that the money you need is there. Sometimes you've just got to bring intentionality to have it all come together as you engage those spiritual lessons. And this is really about seeing spirit and bringing spirit to financial matters in your life, how you generate income for yourself. If you see it as a force of healing, however you understand that, well, that's when you really are on the pathway towards greater abundance. This can also play out in terms of healthy self-love and healthy self-esteem, getting a big burst of healing now, helping you to see yourself through heaven's eyes. Pisces, identity and who you know yourself to be, what matters to you most and first. This is a very dreamy energy, and you just might not be seeing yourself clearly. But also, of all the signs, you are one of the signs that needs to be very diligent with your self-care, especially if you know that you're given to fluctuations in mood. But for all that, where it is that you are actively engaging this energy, to meditate, to be willing to see a higher wisdom playing out as you know yourself to be, to let soul lead the way and guide your actions. Well, that's when the magic becomes that much more apparent, that much more evident. And that really is where you just might connect to a newfound identity that is rooted in soul, rooted in yourself as an embodiment of the divine. It could lend itself to a moment that'll be incredibly significant to you for a long time to come. Thank you for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.